you know, growing up and seeing your dad do amazing things, man. What was one of the lessons that you learned from seeing the interactions of your dad and Miss Shakur?
You know, um, I said in regards to as Chairman Fred, my father in particular, I've been asked a number of times, how did it feel, like, even being deprived of the opportunity to know him, to know him directly, because I was born 25 days post his assassination, along with Defense Cadet Mark Clark. But I said before, I learned lessons from his legend on what a man was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And in our walk of life, in regards to, forces of such calibers that, Chairman Fred Hampton, Deborah Johnson, Assata Shakur, then Mr. Health, Doc Satchels, and so many others. In that, in our genre, and there, in many cases, there you don't get to actually, some forces through their revolutionary resume, through third parties, and then through similar circumstances and conditions. So I was fortunate. I feel so fortunate, to have we like to use this term, real models as opposed to role models. The people that can identify and relate with our situations. In the Southern School, who was initially the Black Panther Party, later the Black Liberation Army.
Mhm.
But and I say real models that, and with that balance also, balance in the Black community of men and women. I've heard a lot of them cynicism in regards to, the gender differences, where people say, well, the men all messed up, the women all messed up. I was fortunate to have a balance, of representatives, that served our people, and that crossed generational lines, this crossed geographical lines, and also it transcended gender lines. So in other words, it wasn't just a case of just knowing of, courageous men, courageous men and women, and Assata Shakur, amongst others, definitely, fit that bill. I was looking at a piece, my fellow Panther Cub, Pac Shakur, and he was, as a youngster, talking about, so those different, he ran out like a revolutionary roll call, Assata Shakur, his mother, finished Shakur, Chairman, he mentioned Chairman Fred. So we would, that impacts you to know of these forces, and also, and there are cases like, well, Minister UEP Newton didn't get the opportunity to in fact, directly come in contact with Field Marshal George Jackson. In fact, I think they were two cells apart in prison. But they knew the comrade. You that term a lot of times. Sometimes people throw the term out there kind of loosely, but that term comrade, a common struggle, and then, and it's more even a deeper definition that of just a friend. But something that holds you to a deeper responsibility. I tell a lot of times. I've said a number of occasions as the chairman of the Black Panther Party Cubs. In many cases, people say, why don't you do this, and why don't you take this position? Or I'm held accountable to a legacy of, some people who I've never even got to meet face to face. And so in many cases, people who are not even physically still here. But that the part we refer to as the party line holds me accountable to that.
Yeah, man. You said a lot. I tell you, man. It was just so much. Just there's so many things surfacing about Miss Shakur, what she done for the the Black Panther Party. What was one thing that you learned from your dad that you can still instill into the young generation right now? Being that you're in Chicago, you see the landscape and you see the stigma that trails behind Black youth. What is your stance to that?
And I guess it's difficult to capitalize into to one lesson, because there's so many different dynamics. I mean, I just, even last night we did a memorial for a brother that was in the community, and we did what we refer to as a people's parade in a community caravan, and I seen his children, his daughter in particular. I seen his nephew. I seen their faces, and able to politicize his death, not just in a, because one thing the Black community in particular, we're deprived of a political analysis, a political summation. A lot of times it's subjective, like, this is my friend, or I like this person, and so on and so forth. But a political, I really, to go in depth to break down the impact. This brother, he happened to be a mechanic. I gave a political analysis on how, the contributions he made to the community and vice versa, and how it impacted not only his respective community but other people. And that's other one other communities. Not they have an advantage of an acknowledged war, you know what I'm saying? You hear terms like propaganda bombs, political prisoners, so on and so forth. Can't tell me people who were shocked and still don't even know that black people that we have political prisoners. You know what I'm saying? People who are still the Mumia Abu Jamals and Imam Jamal Amins who are still held captive. But also that go back to the heart of the question, that of a commitment, of sacrifice. That a lot of times we hear about people who take a position, but it's like a reactionary response. It's something that they done that something happened to them in particular as a person. Assata Shakur, who we reference as one of our modern day Harriet Tubmans. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, were able to escape chattel slavery. Let the record reflect. But that commitment to go back for others. In fact, with the Black Panther Party Cubs, we call it educational ethic. We have a code of conduct on how you operate the streets. And we also have the Harriet Tubman Code, which is a commitment, a code for those who are fortunate to come out of those concentration camps alive with their sanity intact, to reach back for others. You know what I'm saying? So I'm giving you a assessment of not only the impact of Chairman Fred, but the Black Panther Party. You know what I'm saying? How it impacted me. I know of war stories. No, excuse me, war and love stories
Yeah.
of sisters who were actually having labor pains, but still making breakfast for the breakfast program. That could be, you gotta. I've talked to people who they can't depend on a person to come visit them on a jail visit. But that revolutionary discipline, for comrades to come and get this sister. You follow what I'm saying? That's a different dynamic. And again, I feel so fortunate that know the likes of the Sekou Dingers, you know what I'm saying? Sunday Adakotas, Dr. Matula Shakurs, and the Mumia Abu Jamals, and the likes of others, as we say, the Deborah Johnsons, the Minister Doc Satchel, Stan McKinney's. And we say with the Black Panther Party, Cubs, it's a tough act to follow, but we attempt to not walk in their footsteps, but their Panther Paw steps. We're in a time period. We're in a time period that's intense. You know what I'm saying? In fact, it can be referred to like Nixon on steroids, where it helps make the climate conducive to people to understand and relate to us who know who Assata Shakur is. I don't, without this, I was just speaking with our present day Rainbow Coalition with the indigenous, the native community. And some of the natives have said to me, said, well, Chairman, how do you organize? How you still have the president with their Rainbow Coalition? How do you pick which forces to touch down with, so on and so forth? And I say a lot of times, whether we talk about cooking a meal or organizing, we are named different ingredients to different people, but we are negate a necessary dynamic, and that being the heat. In fact, we say a lot of times heat turns more than meat black. You know what I'm saying? Those contested conditions, you get to find out not more about yourself, but other people and comrades. And a lot of times we look at situations such as, say, segregation. And we say, oh, that was the time we stuck together. I said, no, don't romanticize it. In many cases, we were forced together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a time period right now where people are able to distinguish some dynamics about such forces as that of Assata Shakur.
Well, you said a lot, and a lot of things I've taken out from what you're saying speaks on unity, community, mobilizing, strategizing. I just got to ask you, Chairman, what is the plans for your neighborhood in Chicago if the current administration plans to mobilize troops to protect the city of Chicago? And you've seen the responses from other cities, neighboring states. What's your response to that?
Well, first and foremost, in fact, ironically, I was just having this discussion yesterday about the recent street naming of the Chairman Fred on the west side of Chicago, and this August 30th would have been his 77th birthday. The street was named in honor of Chairman Fred, and people were going back and pulling out old footage when we were referencing this as Chairman Fred Hampton way back, 2000, 1990s. So we was calling it this, and we put forward the campaign in 2004. We were there to protract struggle. We are cut from the cloth of not waiting on the system, the ruling class, to officially designate, that there's such acts as designate troops. So they just showed some footage yesterday. With some of the state sentries. I don't know if it's actually National Guard with downtown Chicago. In many cases, our community has been trained to wait for the system to say something for it's official. Like even I tell people when we say our titles. You know what I'm saying? That's not ego tripping. It's struggling that people know that they recognize contradictions and dynamics, not just when the ruling class says, we say Chairman Freddie Defense Lamar Clark, they were assassinated. We say we recognize we are political prisoners. We come from the cloth that when Malcolm X had assessed, when he assessed with regards to the assassination of former U.S. President John F. Kennedy, and he came down to him. A lot of people didn't recognize those such contradictions until Oliver Stone made a movie about it. So we don't have to wait. So we answer your question. We're gonna continue to do what we do. We've been out here organizing. We're gonna be consistent. You know what I'm saying? Because the deal is, a lot of times people need that dynamic of, in your face, in the wrong. But you look at this, the stage is being set. So you look at the counterinsurgency, the attacks, in any case, whether it be domestically or nationally or internationally, it's not just a wham bam one hit wonder. It's a process. It's a getting the community comfortable. Devaluing the ability to politically significant to see certain contradictions. So I had an old saying: "If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready."